Hello, welcome to Office Hour, delayed by almost a week, talking about let the brain be your informant and let your heart be your guide. So actually, it's good that I missed it last week, Wednesday, because only the day after did I watch Mission Impossible. And that has given me even more information on how to talk about today. So, if you are unfamiliar with Mission Impossible, which I almost doubt that the person that's going to watch this is unfamiliar with what that is, but whoever, if this is someone like you who does not know, it's a movie from the 90s. I think it's been like eight different movies out there over the past 30 years. And it's always this guy, Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise. So maybe you haven't watched it because you don't like Tom Cruise, which is fine. And some group of people in relationship to government work, this and that, and saving the world. That's kind of the premise of it. So we just been on this marathon of watching this movie, all these movies up until the last one that's in the theaters right now. Anywho, as the conclusion of this last movie, as I'm watching this in the theaters, a lot of thoughts have come through my mind that I had to reflect upon. And some of the things that I wanted to reflect on was obviously the theme that was from last week, let the brain be your informant and the heart be your guide. And it actually, there is so many parts of it, but why Mission Impossible, I was just going to close this chapter of this, why I brought this in here in the first place, is that at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that we have to do, especially in that movie, that has to come from our brain, the intellect, how we use our thinking and such. And then to really make an impact, it has to come from the heart. So that is really at the end what's going on. Let me see if I can read. So with all that said, so I had to interfere with some being quiet moment. So with that being said, coming from the heart, is the other subject that actually feeded that I forgot to do my office hour last week was that where I am right now, it's in the high 80s, past 30 degrees Celsius, and super, super humid. So it's like a heat wave that's coming through that's very uncomfortable to be outside. Luckily, I did my walk in the morning, so it was a little bit more comfortable. Maybe that's the right word. But anyway, so I was doing my walk this morning, and as I said, super humid. And so this thought around let your heart be your guide and let your mind be your informant really came back again. And that's how I realized I'd forgotten about it. Anyway, and why that? Because when, especially weather, I love talking about the weather because that's oftentimes how some of us find challenges, either it being too hot or too cold, too wet, too this, too that. And so that can hinder us to do certain things. And I was mentioning this morning that if I decide to go on this walk, rain or shine, heat or cold, I'm going to go. I'm going to go on that walk. And even if I maybe shorten it or maybe doing it a little bit different, doesn't matter, right? Hello, how are you? I'm doing fine. And the point of it was that there is this conversation that is happening in our minds. Is like we're going through all these parts, right? So if you're watching this, I'm sure you can attend to this, right? There are oftentimes things we see. Let's use the walk outdoors in the heat, right? And it's not like you have to do it. It's really a choice. You can or can't do it. There is no losing or winning. It's just a choice you make. So to not do it, to say, oh, it's too hot, I'm not going to do this. Obviously, if it's a health reason, we're going to just exclude that one. But if it's just because in my head, I'm telling myself, oh, this is not what I want, this is not what I thought it's going to be, I'm not going to do it, is that really going to help me? And also, what does that tell me about challenges in life, period? Because what I was doing is when I was on that walk, I was like, all right, it doesn't feel as bad as I thought. And it's like stairs that I walk. I walked down the stairs and up the stairs, and I saw someone I knew that came up the stairs. I was chatting with her. I was like, oh, how's the breathing going? How is it? And so as I walked up, it's like, actually, it's not as bad as I thought, right? So by me doing it, I can find that out. But if I don't do it because I already have this preconceived notion that it's not going to make me feel good, or that's not going to make me comfortable, and I decide against it, I don't even know if I would have been able to do it or have this satisfaction of I went anyways, right? Even if it is instead of 20 minutes, only 10 minutes or whatever it is. But you went, right? And the funny thing actually about these stairs was I intended to, so usually I just like two times, go down and up, right? And because I haven't been there in a while, I was like, let me do 3 times. And then, because it really went well, I thought, let me do it a 4th time. And I was like, okay, 4 is good enough. I mean, I probably could have done it again, but I was like, nah, not doing it, right? Anywho, so why this topic? It's because, and sometimes it's the other way around, right? Don't get me wrong. It's not always that my brain is shutting things down. Sometimes it's actually my brain pushing myself forward where my body might not feel that way. So it could go both ways that are useful, right? The only challenge the other way around is we want to make sure that the reason why we're pushing is not overriding a physical ailment or a physical difficulty later on. Meaning, if something's hurting, if my knee is hurting and me pushing through, right, might not be the smartest thing, depending on you knowing that pain isn't really a pain thing. It's really just it acting up. It's going to be fine. Like, there's different things. Again, this topic is not for me to tell you don't listen to your brain or only listen to your heart. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Here, what I'm saying is really like we need to learn how to understand ourselves better and recognize what's pushing us forward and what's pulling us back. And actually this week, I'm going to talk about ancestry and that exact same walk, what information that I gotten through that walk. And so these office hours, if you're new to these office hours and you wonder like, why is she just talking things around? Why am I not learning something about here? Well, you're actually learning something about yourself because I don't know your life, your decisions, and your brain and your heart. So maybe you're watching this. It's like, oh my God, I'm on the right track. I am listening to my mind and I'm not always just doing what my brain is telling me. I also listen to my heart, recognizing where I want to go sometimes from my heart. And sometimes my heart wants to go one way, but then I know from past experience I shouldn't do this. Like, let's use relationships, for example, right? Maybe you've had this person in your life that you've had a good relationship with, things have been going well, and something came in between, and then, but you always told us like, it's just a phase, it's just a thing, right? And then it happens again and again and again and again. You're being disappointed, people don't show up, or whatever it is, right? Why now you're questioning that relationship. And so our hearts might be generous and great and tell us like, no, you can do this, you should do it again, even though your mind's like, well, didn't I learn a lesson yet? So in those situations, it's kind of like, let me pull back and see, is it really worth getting hurt every time? Or maybe I have to just change how I approach this relationship, right? Maybe there is something that I can say in a different way that maybe then invites that person in a different way, that maybe opens up to more connection and avoids miscommunication, or whatever the reasons are that this relationship might have had its challenging times, right? So as I'm exploring this topic of let your brain be your informant and let your heart be your guide, it's really establishing this stronger sense of listening to the two of them, checking in on both of them and seeing like, okay, what is really important right now? Which version of myself do I want to follow through? And am I willing to be disappointed if maybe one or the other is not going to work out? Like, be it following from my heart or following my mind. So at the end of the day, you doing these stairs or not really doesn't matter. It's more of a question is, am I avoiding certain situations because I'd rather not do them? My mind is telling me not to do it, versus, all right, let me try it out. Let me give it a try and see how it's going to turn out. And maybe that experience will then make me gonna try again and again. And so that's all there is to this today. So I'm going to keep it short. All there is figuring out, how do I want to communicate with my mind and my heart? How do I want to take information for either one of them and then make a decision that really serves me, and if it's a person involved in this, the other person or this experience, and not feel I'm pushing an opportunity away. So with that said, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and my impromptu delayed office hour still brought something to you. Let me know how your heart communicates with your mind and how your mind communicates with your heart, back and forth, and which one do you usually follow? Do you usually follow your heart, or do you usually follow your mind? Which one has the last call in your decision making? So let me know. Have a good one. See you soon.